Hello and welcome to the 37 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Want to let you know it's time to get ready for a new season of fishing fun with Academy Sports and Outdoors. Real and the best gear at low prices every day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1 hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. I am joined by two great Americans. Not two great Frenchmen, two great Americans, Kendall J. Rogers, Zebby Barrels, Aaron J. Fitt. Gentlemen, I have a question for you. So we just finished week 9. There is 5. Here's the more pertinent comment. There are only 5 weeks left in our regular season. 5. That's it. And I am feeling like I don't know where the season went. I am feeling like I've never known less in a season than I feel like I know now. I guess a better way to say it is I just feel like the next 5 weeks, I feel like I'm going to learn more than I did in the first 9 weeks. I feel a little unsettled. I feel like the 2020, you know what I'm saying, Aaron Fitt? 2025 season. Who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? I don't know who you are. Am I the only one?
Yeah, I think like a microcosm of this season so far is the fact that, a team like Wake Forest went on the road last weekend and absolutely obliterated Florida State. And then they go on the road this weekend to play North Carolina, and they get roughed up by Carolina all weekend. And really the question, the storyline of that series wasn't necessarily them getting roughed up. It was North Carolina's offense, which was kind of their question mark, showing out. I mean, they were really good. I mean, Gavin Gallagher was awesome. Luke Stevenson had a big day. I think it was at the series finale. I can't remember if it was the second game or the series finale, but I mean, their offense played really well against Wake Forest. So I just feel like what Wake did the last 2 weeks was like, oh, that's this season in pretty much a nutshell.
Yeah, it's just round and round we go, and week to week. And I look at the Big 12, these teams beating each other up. Every week we've got 2 new teams from the Big 10 in the rankings, and then they're out the next week, and they're replaced by 2 new teams in the Big 12, and then they're out the next week, and it's just round and round they go. Nobody can establish themselves at the top of that league. And right now, I guess West Virginia, Kendall, you saw them this weekend, but that's a team that has only had the one stumble, which was at home at Arizona against Arizona, when they lost 2 out of 3. And now they're 30-4 overall. They're in first place.
Yeah.
They still haven't won a series against a regional caliber team, but they did look very impressive to your eyes in Houston this weekend in sweeping that series.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I was really excited to see West Virginia's club. I mean, Steve Sabins has done a really nice job. I was kind of talking to him about this after their game, and I'll have a story on this later in the week, but you look at, some of the new coaches around the country, and I wrote about this last week, but, there are a lot of new coaches around the country, younger guys who have really struggled out of the gate. And, Steve has just taken that program over from Randy Mazey. They haven't skipped a beat. I mean, I think, obviously pitching wise, Gabby Van Kempen, had really good stuff. I mean, it was up to like 95, 96. The command wasn't there. Chase Meyer had like 1 inning where it was like, oh my God, like this guy's incredible. The next inning, the command wasn't great, but I mean, you saw the potential there. So I do think pitching wise for West Virginia, there's still some unanswered questions. There needs to be a little bit more consistency there. But I tell you what, fellas, this lineup is outstanding. I mean, I thought Chase Swain, the Manhattan transfer, was not only excellent offensively, but he was really good at the hot corner. He made a couple of just fantastic defensive plays that saved runs in the second game against U of H. Gavin Kelly, we've talked so much about the SEC and ACC freshmen, and Sawyer Stroh-Snyder at TCU and some others. But Dax Whitney at Oregon State. But how about Gavin Kelly, the talented freshman for West Virginia? It's really interesting. And I'll be right about this, but I was talking to Steve about Kelly after the game. And he said, hey, like, this guy has J.J. Weatherholt attributes, like tools-wise, athleticism, his ability. He can play in multiple positions, his mentality. He's a little bit like J.J. Weatherholt 2.0. And that's pretty lofty praise. I mean, J.J. Weatherholt, guys, was pretty good. He got drafted pretty high. So, Gavin Kelly was impressive. Skylar King, I thought, was just a really nice player for them at the top of that lineup. He had a couple of really nice defensive plays. So, again, I could go up and down this lineup. And, Grant Hussey made really hard contact. Sam White, I know I don't know. Is he a fabulous Rooney dog? I don't know. I know Rooney's a big fan of him.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Canuck. He's a
Canuck. That was his second game back from that injury. Was it the Arizona series or the series before that? He had
Arizona,
that injury?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. That was his second game back, and he had 2 or 3 hits against Houston. So again, just a really, really deep lineup. I have question marks about their consistency pitching wise, but the stuff is there. I mean, it is elite stuff. They can put it all together. I would not want to play West Virginia in the postseason.
I love that. 2 other fun things in the Big 12. Cincinnati won a hard-fought series against Arizona State. They clinched Game 3 with a walk-off suicide squeeze. Like, just count me in on that all day long. Like, that is so glorious. And like Cincinnati in the Big 12 reminds me of Mizzou in the Big 12 in their heyday, where teams have not, like, you go back and check their numbers. Big 12 teams have not done well in Cincinnati, at Cincinnati. It's been a tough trip, a tough place to play. So Jordan Bischel's crew continues that. And again, not trying to influence the Nerdcast, just saying it out loud. The Bearcats are lurking. They're, as Chris from Louisville would say, they're hanging around. They're just hanging around, the Bearcats.
And they were, as we remember way back in week 1, they were in the top 25 after they won that first series against Duke. And then we were kind of buying, and then they just really fell into a rut. And now the fact that they've played their way out of that, and they're sitting here at 8-7 in the league and 21-14 overall. Kudos to them for righting the ship and really, finding their footing in this conference right now. Because you're right, they're right in the thick of the at-large race, which a couple weeks ago did not look like it was going to be the case.
It's going to be interesting too, boys. Like the Big 12, if there's one thing it's not giving us, it's a lot of clarity. It's week to week. It's hard to know what you get your hands on. That said, TCU's sweep of Kansas was pretty loud this weekend. But the Big 12 is another one of these leagues that's going to have a single elimination conference tournament where sometimes I feel like we can get a little bit more clarity in a conference tournament. This year, that might not be available to us because we could have some very good teams that are just one and done, or I don't know. The conference tournaments are just going to go so fast.
I will say this about the Big 12. I do feel like things are starting to take a little bit of shape in this conference from a postseason standpoint. I mean, if you look right now, TCU, West Virginia, Arizona, Kansas State, Arizona State are all in pretty good shape for the postseason. Yeah. But outside of that, I mean, Cincinnati, 64 RPI. Like Baylor, I think we were talking about this in the group chat over the weekend. Baylor, that series against Texas Tech really hurt them. They're down to like 67. So I kind of feel like Baylor's taking a step back. And then Oklahoma State, their RPI went up over the weekend. I mean, they're still, 5-8 in the league, and they lost that series to Arizona. So I do feel like this league's starting to get kind of chopped in half a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I wonder if Oklahoma State can be like this year's version of Florida last year, where all year long it's just a battle to finish above 500. But if they do, they played a really good non-conference schedule. You wonder if they can finish over 500, the RPI could take care of itself, and they can sneak into a regional and be dangerous in a regional because of the talent they have. There's a reason they were a preseason top 25 team, but it just feels like it's going to be a slog right to the finish. Like our guy Rory McIlroy last night. Like it's not going to come easy for this team, just like it didn't come easy for Florida last year. You might miss that putt on 18, but you're gonna, if you get there, you're gonna have to come back and do an extra hole. So that's what kind of is fueling for Oklahoma State.
Yes, and to put a bow on the Big 12, Texas Tech is just that awful party guest. Like, just don't invite them to your neighborhood party because they will ruin it. Looking at you, Baylor.
Hashtag RPI anchor.
Oh gosh, like they're so talented and there's so much pedigree there, and yet outside of the Big 12 tournament, their season's for all intents and purposes over, except for their opportunity to ruin your season. And looking at you, Tempe, Arizona, since they're hosting Texas Tech this weekend, Coach Fern and I will have one of those games.
Fortunately, I hear there's rain in the forecast for Tempe, right? Like that's surely that's a possibility.
Heavy rain with a little bit of sleet.
Field conditions were terrible. We had to cancel it.
Yeah, it's raining fractured dreams if you're not careful, Sun Devils. That's what it's, the forecast of hurt feelings.
11-21 for Texas Tech, and yet they're out there, like you said, just messing people up. They're all of a sudden they're 7-8 in the league, and it's like, they've only got 11 wins and 7 of them are in the league. It's just It's crazy.
3 o'clock in the morning, they've got 3 open cocktails on your pool table. So be careful. Be careful with those Red Raiders. Not that I've ever seen or heard of such a thing. Let's put a bow on the ACC, gentlemen. So, you mentioned it, Kendall. UNC's sweep over Wake was confusing and just like so loud for a million different reasons. Florida State swept Virginia Tech. I'll tell you, Florida State, I was starting to wobble on. This weekend gave me conviction. Like it felt like Jamie Arnold was kind of through whatever he's been dealing with. And it's not like Jamie Arnold's been dealing with like some inconsistency with who he is on the mound and also it's like some physical stuff, but it sounded like he kind of turned a corner. And then I just want to call this out. Like Clemson won the series over Stanford, but Stanford ended that godforsaken 10-game losing streak in the ACC. And I don't know what that means or does for us going forward. But Fitzy, why don't you start us off? What was your big takeaway in the ACC?
Well, I'll start with, where I spent some time this weekend, which was Raleigh. Louisville, NC State was a series I was very intrigued by, because State, it feels like has been trending and is still trending. But, Louisville, their offense is pretty scary, and they went out there and jumped them early on Friday, and I think they were up 7-2 in middle innings. And State, just like the last time I was over at State, they just come on back, and it's just like it came back twice in this game. And Louisville counterpunched; they were up 11-9, and State came back and won 13-11. It was once again, an impressive display of resilience from NC State. I had some concerns this weekend, obviously, about Louisville on the mound, but boy, I like their lineup. It just feels like an old school Dan McDonnell offense that can put so much pressure on you with the speed and with the quality of their at-bats. I like their combination of physicality. Of Jake Monroe is a real player. I mean, I liked a lot of things that I saw about Louisville, and yet you walk away and it's like, gosh, you gave up 13 runs and 11 runs in the 2 losses. You got run ruled on Sunday. They put up a 25 spot in between and run ruled NC State. So it's just, again, hard to make sense of some of this stuff, right? Like who's really good? Is there, the complete teams are what we're looking for in the ACC. And right now it feels like that's Clemson. And, Florida State, I'm with you. This was a nice bounce back for them on the road, sweeping Virginia Tech. I got Bradley Smart was there and had plenty of coverage on that one. And North Carolina maybe is kind of sneaking up now, answering the questions that I raised last week, maybe about their offense. I agree. That was pretty loud and reassuring to see them swing the bats like that. So maybe that's the top tier and everyone else is just kind of jockeying for position. But NC State is, certainly finding ways to win series here and just grind them out the last 2 weeks. So that's been encouraging for them.
Kendall, I'm going to have you sanity check me on a comment here. So the Rory McIlroy redemption story, like you've had your guts ripped out a million times. It's so top of mind, like #sports. Anyone that's not a golf fan, if you've not watched the highlights of Rory McIlroy's Masters win yesterday, you should do it. Even if you've never picked up a golf club, it is the epitome of sports, of someone just like pouring their heart and soul into something, and that sport giving them nothing but just tragedy back. And yet it ended in triumph yesterday. So here we go. Here's my Rory McIlroy analogy. Kendall, why can't Clemson win the national championship this year? Why can't they be that team that has been just getting their hearts ripped out in the postseason against like elite SEC teams? Why can't Clemson go to Omaha for the first time since 2010 and just rip off a bunch of wins? And I know Clemson's got some limitations on their rosters. There's parts of their roster that I wish were better. I wish there was more certainty on Sundays. I wish Aiden Canuck was going to be like the first pick in a draft. He's not. Like Aiden Canuck is more Kip Bachnight than he is Paul Skeens. I still think he's awesome, but I don't see a super team out there either, right? Like I don't see 2023 LSU. I don't see a 2024 Tennessee lurking out there. So anyway, sorry about the long answer. Tell me I need to put the Kool-Aid down, Kendall. You're muted. Keep drinking the Kool-Aids from the message I'm receiving.
Sorry, I was speechless from your comment. I actually I saw Clemson. Granted, that was 2 months ago now. I saw Clemson opening weekend, and I say this: I really like their offense. We'll talk about their pitching in a second, but I do really like their offense. I mean, Jaron Purify, I think he has 16 or 17 stolen bases now. He's just a really electrifying player. I think they're really scary offensively. I'm with you on the pitching. I mean, I do think if you look at their weekend rotation, at least the weekend I saw them, I know LeGwarnick has been a little bit up and down. I mean, it's pretty good stuff, though. I do think they learned a lot from last year. I think against Florida, I mean, anybody who watched that series, I mean, that thing was like back and forth. I mean, it was like one pitch, one hit there, and they advanced. So I do think that helps a team like this go into the postseason. But I actually think I'm buying Clemson. I think first of all, I think it's a really good coaching staff. I mean, Eric's been there. I think they're going to be ready. I really do. I think they'll pitch enough in the postseason to do what it needs to be done to get to Omaha. I really do.
Yeah, and I'll chime in here too, because actually I had this conversation with somebody in the Clemson camp. It's funny that they're number 3 in the country or whatever they are, and they've got one player in our top 100 at the midseason the draft update, right? Like it's not this prospect laden team. I mean, this Cam Canarella is the one guy, but Knox's a prospect for next year. He's not eligible this year, so he wasn't eligible for that list. But I mean, neither I don't think was Purified unless is he draft eligible sophomore? I don't know. Anyway,
sure.
But the point is, like, it's a lot of good college players, like winning college players, and a bunch of these guys are going to get drafted. They're just not going to be like top 5 rounders guys. But like, the Dominic Glisties and the Josh Panos and, Colin Priest, a big old donkey who hits, has kind of found his footing and is hitting for power. And I really like Jacob Gerald behind the plate, and Andrew Schufo is a winning player, shortstop. And like a lot of these guys, Josh Pano at third. I mean, they're not necessarily sexy, but like they're just good winning players, and the pieces just fit so well together. And I do think that if you're looking, Kendall talked about the pitching and maybe some question marks there, but the bullpen's a major strength, and that's a separator in the postseason. Not a lot of teams even have good starting pitching anymore, and Clemson does at least have one guy that they know they can count on every week, and Canuck. And then, between Malstead and who's, one of the best relievers in the country, maybe the best, and then you've got Drew Titsworth, who of course is nasty from that low slot, and you got BJ Bailey, who can fit into a variety of roles depending on how they want to use him. He can start, he can come on the bullpen. You got, Reed Garris is a veteran guy with a different look, with a higher arm slot. I mean, there's a lot of different looks they can throw at you, and I think the bullpen is a strength. And so I don't think you need 3 horses in the rotation anymore. I mean, we've been seeing this over and over again. It helps to have them. I still usually am going to bet on the teams that have them in the postseason, but you can do it without that formula, and I think Clemson is going to find a way to get there this year. And you're right, Coach Rooney. This is a good analog for the Rory redemption, because it was about the same time frame too. Like 2011 was when Rory had that lead that he blew as a young kid at Augusta National. 2010, Clemson was sitting pretty 2-0 in Omaha, right? Against South Carolina, their arch rival, and they had their guts ripped out, and they haven't been back since. I mean, like, it's even the same time frame. Like, it feels like the time is now for Clemson to get back there and have their shot.
Go ahead, Kendall. Oh, you look like you had something.
No.
Oh, good. Hey, so and I would say this. I'll put a bow on Clemson with this.
Yeah.
They're not going to see anything in this postseason they haven't seen in the last 2 years, right? Like 2 years ago, they have this top 5 preseason Tennessee show up as their 2 or 3 seed. I can't remember what it was, but either way, it's just like
2. I think Charlotte was her 3, right?
Yeah, just like we talk about a bad party guest. And then last year, Cags and Brandon Neely show up like, I guess we'll go to Omaha. What the hell? Why not? Why not us? So anyway, very interesting. Hey, before we do the SEC, let's take a quick break. Let me tell you guys about Tecovas boots. If you love our game, you know that smell, the one that brings you right back. Fresh cut grass, a broken in glove, made with real leather. That's exactly what you get with Tecovas boots. They're made for baseball people, whether you've been wearing boots your whole life like myself, or you're picking up your first pair. With over 200 steps of craftsmanship, they're built to last, feel great right out of the box, and they look even better. Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your pair today at Tecovas. That is so fun. My roommate in college, boys, was from Houston, Texas, and he had a wicked pair of ropers. That's what they're called, Kendall, right? Not like it's a version of cowboy boot. Oh, did we lose Kendall?
Oh, is that the Justin Ropers?
I don't know.
Justin boots?
They look like lower boots kind of deal. Did I out myself as a non-boots guy? Goodness gracious.
I don't know. I don't know a ton about boots.
Dang it.
I need to hit up my man Ronnie Nelson at Tecovas and get a little bit more education on
You don't know a ton about what kind of Texan are you? Oh my gosh.
East Texan. Hey, boys.
Actually, it's what? This might shock you. I don't know a lot about boots. And I don't know a lot about guns. So I'm not a very good Texan, I guess.
Yeah, faux Texan.
Hashtag fraud.
Great segue though, Kendall, because as we talk about the SEC, your Texas Longhorns, you are being a citizen of the state of Texas.
I was about to say you're going to get me in a lot of trouble.
You are a citizen of the state of Texas, the Republic of Texas, and the Longhorns have vaulted to the top of the rankings, which is just crazy. Jim Schlossling was going to write a manual on rebuilds someday, but let me give you guys some results, and you can tell me which one stuck out. Texas won their series at Kentucky. That was an eminently losable series. I still am waiting for Texas to pay a penalty for no Max Blue, but they keep not paying that penalty. And I thought Kentucky was a team that could give them a problem, and maybe they pressed them, but they didn't win the series. Texas did. Georgia sweeps Arkansas. I think they swept them, or did they just win the series? Won the series, right?
Won the series.
Yeah. Georgia won the series in a walk-off.
Yeah.
Very competitive series too.
Yeah, really close games. Tennessee and Ole Miss had an awesome series. Tennessee won the series, did not sweep. Auburn swept LSU. And then I just want to point this out because I'm just fascinated by it. Mizzou and South Carolina are now sitting at 2-28 in the SEC. That is feels unprecedented to me. Mizzou and South Carolina have won, and just to be clear, South Carolina won the two games. Mizzou is 0-15. South Carolina is 2-13 in the SEC. Kendall, you go first. What's anything that jumps off the page at you there?
Yeah, you know what? I'll talk about Texas and Kentucky real quick, and I'll actually start this conversation by talking about Kentucky. I was just tallying this up. Nick Mingione has to just be nauseated at this point at this stat. So Kentucky, since the Georgia series, fellas, has lost 5 SEC games by a total of 11 runs. 11 runs and 5 losses. Kentucky is right there. They're a really interesting team. They play hard. They do things exotic ways. But man, they're just barely losing games, and that has to be incredibly frustrating. And the other thing too, as a coach, you kind of wonder, does the dam break at some point when you're losing games in excruciating fashion like that for Kentucky? But yeah, 5 losses, 11 total runs. But give Texas a lot of credit. I mean, once again, Dylan Volantis was really good in 2 outings over the weekend. He just continues to put up awesome numbers. He is, I mean, if you're a left-handed hitter that gets Volantis and that slider, it's game over. He's going to get you. And so, he was really good over the weekend. Grayson Saunier, I mean, remember that guy? He came out of the bullpen yesterday because they had already kind of exhausted Volantis for the weekend, and he went out there and got big pitches for him. So, Max Wiener's done a really nice job with him. And so, I just like Texas team, man. They lose Max Blue, and it's so many coaches say it, right? Hey, next man up. But it has literally been next man up for them. Granted, they're not equaling the production of Max Blue, but it's serviceable production in lieu of him. So, I'm just really impressed with the job that staff and certainly those players have done there at Texas. And Ethan Mendoza, a guy that, we all three certainly are well aware of. He was a guy that when he transferred from Arizona State, we were kind of like, man, it'll be really interesting to see what he does in the SEC. And he's just been a wrecking ball for those guys in SEC play. He's hitting well over 300 in conference and has been a very key hitter at the top of their lineup.
Go ahead, Fitzy. What grabs you in the SEC?
Well, I feel like we've spilled a disproportionate amount of ink and airtime on the Texas A&M Aggies, but don't look now. They're kind of creeping back in. I know the schedule ahead is hard, but, I mean, they weren't supposed to win the series at Tennessee, and they found a way to take 2 out of 3 there. And then we said it a couple weeks ago, they had to sweep South Carolina. And, boy, it wasn't easy, but they did it. They swept it, and it was wild. I mean, what was that game, 15-12 or something?
2 grand slams in the 9th inning.
I mean, what? It just bonkers, bonkers. But that's the kind of stuff you're fighting for your life, your season. Yeah. Every game really matters for the Aggies. And suddenly you get through the weekend somehow, and you're up to 6-9. Same record as Kentucky in the league, and RPI is into the 40s. And it's okay. Next now they got a 6-game winning streak, and again, doesn't get any easier for them. I mean, you've got at Arkansas, at Texas the next 2 weeks. Then you got home versus LSU. You get the 3 against Missouri, another must sweep, obviously. And you finish at Georgia. I mean, we've talked about this plenty. Their schedule is brutal. It's still probably an uphill battle, but they're trending. They've got some momentum. They're actually alive right now, which, 2 weeks ago, they sure looked like they were dead. So, just something to monitor.
Yeah, I actually kind of think they're going to get to that 12-13 win mark.
They might
at this point. Like, I actually feel pretty confident in that one.
Yep. And good for those guys. Like you said, Fitzy, like just the comebacks, and like Hayden Schott was buried and done. And now he's having this great, like he's having a resurgence. His personalities come back out. Hey, I want to correct myself on Georgia and Arkansas. Like, just I'm putting my Georgia hat on. Arkansas 10-run them. Like the game didn't end early, but beat them 13-3 in game 1. And if you're Georgia, you've then lost 4 straight games to Texas and Arkansas, and it's getting pretty spooky. And then they won 2 one-run games there.
Yep.
I want to call out Auburn. We all like just Butch Thompson is so great, and like they're playing all these freshmen, and it's just it's cool to see Auburn doing their thing. And I want to say this about Ole Miss. I've been fairly skeptical of them because whatever the opposite of mistake-free baseball is, I guess it would be mistake-ridden. That's Ole Miss, right? You watch Ole Miss and you want to get excited, and you're like, oh my gosh, like really, you guys just did that? And yet Ole Miss just is unflappable. I think that's the right word for them. They just keep competing, and man, like, they gave Tennessee everything they wanted and more this weekend. Like, that was just, it wasn't pretty and it wasn't super refined, but it was like the bar fight meter in that series, Kendall, was, it was an easy 80, and good on Ole Miss. Like, they were totally up for it.
They were, but I'll say this about Tennessee. I watched a couple of games that series, and I do think what happened in that A&M series, I think teams now look at Tennessee in a different vein. I think they look at Tennessee and go, this isn't some there's like an intimidation factor a little bit, I think, when you play teams that are just rolling like that. And I think teams look at Tennessee now and they're like, hey, we can beat these guys. Like, if A&M can go to Knoxville, we can beat these guys. And Ole Miss looked like a team that thought they could beat them. And they played like that throughout the weekend.
I want to talk about Auburn for a second because you touched on it, Runes. But I mean, listen, for them to sweep LSU, I've really, I'm on record. I'm pretty much all in on LSU. I really like this LSU team. I think they're really good. I think they could win it all. I wouldn't have said, and I probably still wouldn't say that I think Auburn can win it all. I just think they're too young, but gosh, they're fun. And they could beat anybody on a given weekend, and right now it feels like the pitching is kind of fallen into place. I mean, you had the Sam Dutton revenge game against his old team. And he was great, but he's been great all year. That's the one kind of reliable piece. But then how about Kate Fisher behind him? First win of the season, gives him 5 strong innings, 3-hit ball against, again, I think a very talented, very good LSU offense. And I'm a fan of Andres Alvarez. I like him in that Sunday spot where he was this past weekend. I think it's a combination that works, and obviously, the talent of those young guys, the Remberts and Terrells, and the Fralick behind the plate. I mean, love those freshmen. I just think they give them so much energy and talent, and with the veterans sprinkled around them, Mike Irish and Eric Snow and Cooper McMurray. I mean, I just think it's a combination that really works, and boy, I think they're a lot of fun. Really exciting team to follow.
Love it. Boys, let's do a potluck and we'll wrap. If my writing tablet will turn back on. Oh, there it goes. All right, so in the Big Ten, I don't know what to tell you about the Big Ten. USC won their series at Penn State, and I think that's really important for USC, who was very much like Cincinnati, hanging around outside of the restaurant smoking cigarettes, but may well enter the restaurant. But USC with a big series win at Penn State. Iowa keeps winning, but we're really going to know at the end. Oregon State and Oregon both come to the state of Iowa to finish the regular season. And I think, and by the way, Kate Obermueller is having this really awesome season, their left-handed pitcher. So, Iowa, stay tuned. They keep winning. Oregon, oh, go ahead, Fitzy.
Are the Oregon teams dodging the Dewhawks while they're in Iowa?
Yeah, afraid to compete. Yeah, okay. the worst college Dewhawks.
You hate to see that.
Yeah. I mean, the Dewhawks may be well into their playoffs by then. They're on the way to their God knows how many national titles. Coach Farron will have to confirm that for us. Oregon, I'm going to be critical for a second. They just continue to play with their food. Could have swept, and a vulnerable Maryland team did not do it. The game they lost, they got run off the field. They got beat 12-2. Oregon has got to be a very confounding team for them and for us. Western Kentucky, we're wondering, like, okay, would they be having a parade after winning the series against DBU again? Well, no, they were too busy sweeping Liberty. Like, WKU almost got ranked this week. They just continue to do their thing. Their non-conference strength of schedule will be they can't. That's like part of the resume they can't erase. There's no whiteout for that, but they can keep winning, right? Like they certainly can keep winning, and they certainly are doing that. Cal Poly won a huge series over Hawaii at home. I thought that was really important for Cal Poly to continue to legitimize their resume. Boys, I would like to I take pride in not trying to influence or lobby the Nerdcast. I'm going to violate that right now. For the Nerdcast Cafe.
We do not take bribes.
No bribes. But I will tell you, for the Nerdcast Cafe, the Southland Conference Party of 2. Can we make a reservation? I just saying, Southland Conference, the number 9 RPI league. McNeese State with the longest winning streak in the country.
I need to leave the room while you're talking about this. I can't be here. I can't hear this. La 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 la.
Hashtag horse trading. McNeese State, Mr. Fitt, has now a 12-game winning streak, which leads the country. UTRGV, the Fighting Vaqueros, ranked with a 35 RPI. I just think it's an awesome resurgence in the Southland. Yeah. And you look at the top of that league, UTRGV, McNeese, Southeastern Louisiana, Houston Christians having this remarkable season. Lamar is hanging around there with a 61 RPI. I just think this league's going to be a blast. If I could be in 2 places at once, I'd love to go to that conference tournament. Go ahead, Kendall. This is your neck of the nape. What say you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go out west a little bit. I'm going to give some kudos to Cal Poly. They had an undefeated Big West record going into the weekend against Hawaii, who's a really good team, another good RPI team. They lose that series opener 4-2, but Larry Lee's club, they come back and win 12-5 and dominate game 2, and then win 5-2 in the finale. Torres was really good out of the bullpen for them. I think he threw 4 or 5 shutout out of the bullpen yesterday. And so I just think that the way that Cal Poly responded from that first loss in conference was really impressive. Just to come back and absolutely throttle the Bows in game 2. So
that was a gut wrencher too. Their closer got beat in game 1 too. Kind of like I watched the end of that, and it was a horrid way to lose too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their next couple of weekends. Maybe got the UCSB on the road and UC Irvine. If they can weather that storm, I mean, if they can go 3-3 in those 2 series, I mean, Cal Poly's a host contender. I mean, they got an RPI 17 right now. So just a really nice job that team's done. They certainly showed resilience over the weekend.
Yep. And they've got, you mentioned it, Irvine coming up, in 2 weeks. I mean, just an enormous series. So I feel like the team that wins that series is a pretty good shot to host. If things play out the way we think they will. Ken, real quick, Rune's touching on your Southland point. We discussed it quite a bit, I think, on the first Nerdcast 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, it has a legit chance to be a multi-bid league, and I think right now you look at UTRGV and McNeese are the 2 that have the most realistic shots at that. I mean, Southeastern also has a shot with 53 RPI, but those other 2, I mean, you're looking at RPIs 35, 26 with great conference records. And yeah, I mean, it's, ultimately, historically, the way that things tend to go for this league is those RPIs drop a little and there's just not quite enough, high-end wins or whatever. And usually they get squeezed out, but there's a chance. And so I think it's cool. Like you said, the league is having a great year, and you love to see that. You mentioned USC. That's one that has my attention, going to Penn State and taking 2 out of 3 on the road. A pretty good Penn State team. Shotgun Spratling was there, covered that series for us. Check that out on the site if you're a Trojan fan. You probably already are following Shotgun if you're a Trojan fan. I hope so, by God. But USC is now inside the top 40 of the RPI and 11-7 overall. And, it kind of feels like they're just, like you said, they're grinding away. I think they might have just taken a step inside the restaurant. I think right now they got 1 foot in the door. They're just getting their ID checked.
We check IDs at the. I love it. I love that very much.
Rich, can I get a couple of thoughts in on a couple of mid-major conferences?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you mentioned Western Kentucky a minute ago. They pitched really well over the weekend.
Ooh.
Dawson Hall had yet another start. I think they had the nation's #1 ERA coming into the weekend and certainly helped their case on the road against the Flames. So they're in a really good spot. I think they're 30, 31, 32 in the RPI right now. The other thing that's kind of becoming a storyline for me is the lack of power coming out of the Sun Belt as a whole. Last year we talked a lot about how the Sun Belt, I think at one point they were up to 3 in the RPI. I think they finished at 4th in the conference RPI. Right now they're at 7, and they pretty much have 3 teams: Coastal Carolina, Troy, Southern Miss, all ranked. And outside of that, they pretty much have no one with a shot to make the postseason. Outside of that, it's the highest RPI left is 70. As a Sun Belt team, you're just not going to get in position from 70 to make the tournament. So, they're going to be they could potentially have 2 teams out of 3 host, and that's the only 3 teams that even make the tournament. It's just interesting compare now to where this conference was just a year ago.
Yeah, fascinating. Boys, this was good. I'll give you a mid-major Rampage too. I had a Valley game over the weekend. I had Illinois State and Evansville, and Evansville's suffering the mid-major version of what Ole Miss and Mississippi State dealt with. Like you have this historic season, and then there's just you have to reset the roster. Like you have to take your medicine, and there's so much great stuff going on. Kyle Freeland and his wife Ashley donated $3 million for a clubhouse. Recruiting is ticked up, but this team they played 4 freshmen in the game we had. I will say in the Valley, like Missouri State under Joey Hawkins is a really fun team. Illinois State under Steve Holm. They've got this first baseman, Judah Morris. He's from Consumers Rivers Junior College in California, which is the same area that Steve Holm's from. He's Derek Lee. Like he's every bit of 6'5", 240 pounds, right-handed hitter. He's got size 78 feet. It is unbelievable how big Judah Morris is. And he's just a glorious college baseball player. They've got a shortstop, Shai Robinson, who's a Chicago kid, who's really fun. And he gives me Randall Diaz vibes from Indiana State, kind of like that physical, like college running back looking shortstop who's just starting to figure out his baseball. And then Southern Illinois is also lurking under Lance Road. So the Valley's going to be really fun. I just think the stretch run has snuck up on me, as I mentioned earlier. I would say, guys, like now is the time. If you're listening, you don't have a sub to our site, you got to do that. Like we're all I've got 6 tabs of our site open right now to have these discussions. I'm looking at scores. The new scoreboard, if you've not seen it, is glorious. It's got where you stand in the series. It's got overall records, conference records. I've got the standings page. Also glorious. I've got the Diamond Sports rankings up. Like, for instance, Georgia Tech, can they be a top 8 seed? I don't know. RPI is 13. DSR is 7. Who knows? Stay tuned for the Nerdcast later this week. Individual rankings, like I'm confused about the Golden Spikes Award. So I looked up Justin LeBron this morning. Guess what? He's not even hitting 300 in the SEC this year. So who the heck is winning the Golden Spikes Award? I don't know. Can a guy hit 295 in his own league and still be the player of the year nationally? I don't know. Sure, maybe he can. Yeah. But anyway, Kendall, what's our coupon du jour? Do we have a coupon?
It is Omaha 30% off a subscription, and support our staff, man. Those guys are all over the place. I know we get a lot of comments from people about the awesome job that Joe and Mark do with SEC Extra, what Bradley and to some degree Aaron does with the ACC Extra. But Shotgun Spratling had a really nice piece at the end of last week on St. John's, and I wanted to mention St. John's because we were talking about different teams around the country, kind of a potluck of clubs. But they've won 6 straight in the Big East. They swept Xavier over the weekend. And they are now up to 50 in the RPI. So St. John's is suddenly kind of in the postseason mix. And by the way, 2 guys to keep an eye on St. John's. And again, Shotgun kind of detailed these guys in the speech. You can still go check it out. Sean McMillan and Jared Beebe for the Johnnies. They're both hitting over 550 in 2 weekends of Big East play. So keep an eye on the Johnnies.
And hey, if anytime you want to check out a story that you've missed, just a reminder, you can just click on the team page on our site, and right there it has all the recent stories about a team. So you just click on St. John's, and there's Shotgun's piece. And you're right. Our guys are just crushing it. I mean, having Shotgun tearing up the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and, you know, he's those all-win college, Happy Valley this weekend.
Yeah, he went to Penn State and then drove down to Maryland for the Oregon series.
Yeah, that's right.
And also Stitch on the West Coast. Stitch was at Cal Poly, and I'm pretty sure, I think you may know, I think Stitch will probably be at UC Irvine and Cal Poly as well. So
yeah,
he's all over the place out there.
I was thinking about going out there myself for that series. I'm not decided yet, but boy, that's intriguing.
I've heard great things about SLO.
I've never
been there, but I've heard it's awesome.
It's a great ballpark. It's a great setting. But anyway, staff's crushing it. Patrick and Burke doing their thing in the middle of the country. Everybody's getting after it. Proud of our group. Proud of you, Coach Rooney. I'd like to throw your name into the mix for the Golden Spikes Award. Somebody's got to win it. Why not you?
Thank you. Why not me? Why not me? 2 bullet points and then we'll wrap, boys. Many of you fans have asked, hey, like if I get the subscription to D1 Baseball, does that include Roll Damn Pards Extra? Well, not yet, because Roll Damn Pards Extra, even though the Lafayette Leopards are in 4th place, which would qualify them for the Patriot League playoffs, as we sit here today, Pards Extra has not been released yet. Stay tuned for more details on that.
The price point on that will be $4.99 a year.
Yes, it won't be free.
Hey,
yes.
Runes,
yes.
does it hurt looking up in the standings and seeing the Holy Cross Crusaders? I'll
go Satyrs. Yeah. Well, the Satyrs, we'll see. We'll see. The Satyrs can be allergic to May at times. You know, they don't like it when the heat gets turned up in Worcester County. But we'll see. That'd be fun if the Pards and the Satyrs.
Oh.
It was, by the way, it was snowing in Boston over the weekend.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I heard some very depressed voices on a conference call this morning.
Get it together, Beantown.
Clean it up. Jeez Louise. And my final message to the Southland, I tried, but I am told the Nerdcast Cafe does not take reservations. So Southland Conference, McNeese State, etc. Keep winning ball games. That's all you can do.
I'm going to talk, I like that name, by the way. I'm going to talk to KP about that when they do renovations at some point to, the Chuck to have the Nerdcast Cafe out in the club or something.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you guys own little deal up in the press box?
Great idea.
Oh, yeah. Market that. Boys, well done. We have, in fact, won today's podcast. Everyone have a great week. Look out for the Nerdcast in the next couple of days, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.